Good morning and welcome to healthierlife.tv. Nearly got that wrong. Today I may be without Warren. Warren's got a personal matter he needs to attend to and may well be joining us in this Facebook Live podcast. And so hopefully he will, but we'll crack on regardless. And today's subject is eradicate mental tiredness and fatigue. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot remember the last time that I was fatigued. It's a long time ago. You know, I think I have to go right the way back to prior to 2006 when I was working extremely long hours in the police. And even then, it was probably before the year 2000. However, it's not the same for everyone. And lots of different people listen to this podcast, Facebook Live, and are in different positions. And fatigue can be really, really nasty. Now, so you have to ask yourself, does this affect me? So it could go from just being a little bit sleepy to absolutely total fatigue. And fatigue is you get over time. Being a little bit sleepy because maybe you went out the night before really doesn't count. It's all important, but what we're talking about is something that really deeply affects you. Now, fatigue is caused by a number of factors working in combination, and basically we're talking about things like medical conditions, unhealthy lifestyle choices, which is a big one, and also workplace problems. And we've also got to think about stress as well. Now, think about this. Fatigue is a known factor in workplace accidents and in motor vehicles, and think about this. If you're not paying attention because you're tired, very tired, extremely tired over a long period of time, then accidents will happen. And especially if you're driving, think about it. It only takes a little slight thing to go wrong and it's Armageddon. We've all seen it on videos, and hopefully we've not been involved in it, but it's very close to happening, okay, if you're not taking care of yourself. Now, some people close their eyes to it. Some people do something about it. And I must admit, there have been a few times when I felt tired and, you start to nod off when you're driving and things like that. And again, you've got to take care of these things. And there's things that you can do. Now, Warren and myself, we help people with extreme tiredness and fatigue. And we're not going to go into that. But if you need help at all, then you can seek our help or seek another professional's help if you're suffering from something like chronic tiredness. So fatigue is a feeling of constant tiredness. This is every day. Or weakness can be the same thing. And it can be physical. It can be mental, obviously, or it could be a combination of both. I sometimes think of the young mum who's maybe got a couple of kids to look after, and they're at it all day long, aren't they? And I'm glad I was never in that position. I was always working. So but my hat's off to women and young mums. Now, fatigue can really affect anyone or most adults. And most adults, well, let's put it this way, they'll experience it sometime in their working life. And again, it does depend on circumstances. As I say, I cannot remember a recent time when I've been fatigued at all. But at some point in your life, you may face this. And it's nice to know what to do. And but remember that fatigue is a symptom. It's not the condition. Okay, you can take care of symptoms. Although fatigue is sometimes described as tiredness, it's different to just feeling tired or sleepy, as I said. And we contribute to it. Most of everything to do with lethargy and fatigue is down to us, because we let things creep up on us, and that's when we get ratty and start arguing, and it leads on to a whole litany of things that can go wrong for you. Everyone feels tired at some point. And that's okay, because that's quite a natural thing to feel. But this is usually resolved with a nap or a few good nights sleep, and you get back into it in the right way. Some people continually abuse their bodies. That's up to them, by the way. But then they add no sleep to it, and then a lack of nutrition, and maybe a lack of exercise. Okay, you're on the path down the road really to bad fatigue. Okay. Someone who's sleepy may also feel temporarily refreshed after exercise. That's another thing to remember as well. So it's not. It is a build-up. There's no doubt about it. And because I've always been into sport, I've always known really that I've got to drink plenty, water, not alcohol. Although I have had my moments, and basically have a reasonably good diet and sleep. And I've always done those three things, and it's normally served me quite well. The only times that, the last time I can think about getting fatigued is when I was starting to do 16-hour days, 18-hour days, right up to 22.5-hour day. I think was my longest day. And that's because we had a job going. We, as police officers, we arrest people, and you can't just walk away from it. You're on time limits when you're dealing with prisoners. So, and you also got, if you think, sometimes we'd raid a yard with loads of stolen cars, and we had to log every bit of equipment, because property is the bane of a policeman's life, because if you don't do it properly, people ask questions. We actually had someone complain next day that we'd stolen a load of tools from this garage, and luckily it was great record keeping that showed them that no, they were logged, the day before, but someone hadn't bothered to look properly and had just gone on someone's complaint. Okay, they'd phoned me up, I would have told them where they were, but being you must log everything that you do, and it's like a bit like keeping records. If you were starting out, if you were fatigued and you were going to start doing something about it, is to keep records of, maybe, let's think of a journal, maybe, where you can say, right, these are the things I'm going to track. I'm going to track what I eat, what I drink, when I go to bed, and how long I'm asleep, and things like that, what my sleep is like, what exercise I do each day. And just those three things alone would drag you back towards some kind of normality and health. So it's very, very important. Now, if you're getting enough sleep, as I said, good nutrition and exercise regularly, but still find it hard to perform everyday activities, then and maybe your concentration's been affected, maybe your motivation. There are normal levels that you can aim for. And we all experience different versions of this during our lifetime. But if you are getting all of those things and you think you're doing the right things, and and it's still not going well for you, then it needs further investigation from a professional. Okay, because you're not going to do it overnight. You're not going to find out what it is unless you're extremely lucky. It may take a bit of time before you identify what is actually wrong. So what are some of the symptoms of fatigue? Now, they can cause a vast array of symptoms, and whether they're physical or mental, and some of them are even emotional. Depends on how it's affecting you. So chronic tiredness and sleepiness, that is huge. Okay, now think, when you go to see a doctor, right, you want him to be on the ball, especially a surgeon. Can you imagine a surgeon who had chronic tiredness and hadn't had much sleep? Not a good combination. Another symptoms: headaches, dizziness, sore or aching muscles. Okay, that's why you would need to investigate to find out what it was. How about muscle weakness, slow reflexes? We'll whack the knee to see how our reflexes are. What about responses to things? how fast you respond, impaired decision making. Now, decision making is really a big thing to do. And can you imagine being a lorry driver and having your decision making or your judgment affected by your lack of sleep? And there are strong, stringent conditions where you have to stick to as a lorry driver. And they have what they call I don't know if it's now. This is when I was in the police. They had a tachograph that logged how fast they were driving, how many hours they were doing, and you'd be committing offences if you didn't stick to those hours. So if you had an accident, someone would be seizing the tachograph to find out exactly what you'd done prior to the accident. So can you imagine, though, a lorry driver that didn't have the judgment because he was tired or or lethargic? I say it's frightening, really. What about moodiness? How many times you've been in a bad mood? How many times you've been irritable? Now, all these have an origin, okay? And you can do something about all of these. Now, if you need any help, get in touch. Because there's, when you listen to things like this, you realize there's so much that can go wrong, okay? And it doesn't take a great deal to get them right. Warren's come on. Aha. Hello, young man. How are you, Warren?
Hello, Squire.
Put your earphones in. I can't hear you. So, yeah, we're talking.
You can't hear me.
No, it's terrible, isn't it?
Hi, everybody.
We're talking about the symptoms of fatigue. And I'll tell you what I've said: chronic tiredness, sleepiness, headaches, dizziness, muscle weakness, impaired decision making, moods, and irritability. That's how far I got. So, what do you think of some of the other ones? That's it. That's one of them. Yeah, right there. One of the big ones is impaired hand-eye coordination. Can you imagine someone working on some precision drilling or a bit of machinery that you really need all your concentration on to stop getting injured?
Yeah.
Well, my son, quite a few years ago, had an accident where he chopped a finger off, on a machine. And it was a saw. And I don't know the full circumstances, but only he will know. And
never will know.
No. But some companies don't pay attention to health and safety. That's the other thing as well. It's another angle to come at it. But what we're talking about is fatigue. Mm-hmm. And if you've got tremendous, I know a lot of people that suffer from fatigue that have a real big loss of appetite.
Okay. Yeah,
that would never happen to me, of course.
Over a period of time, I can see that being a case. Yeah. Me neither.
Yeah. I'd be nearly dying and still eating. So,
they asked me on death row, what would your last meal be? I'd order as much as I possibly could so I could keep eating for as long as I can.
So, I would imagine that this is one of the big ones, of course, the reduced immune system function. Now, that's huge. And that sort of reverts back to, first of all, food. Mm-hmm. And then we're talking about vitamins and minerals and things like that. And making sure that you're consuming, good nutrients. And that's huge. And because the other thing to that is, are you absorbing them properly?
Well, this is another important factor, isn't it? Because if this is where the vicious cycle goes in, doesn't it? Because you start becoming fatigued mentally, and then your body's having to take all the resources to keep you awake and keep your brain functioning properly. So it's depleting from the body, and then the body becomes inflamed because there's lack of I'm not talking about like necessarily acute symptoms. I'm talking about long-term symptoms.
Yeah.
Over time, we tend to become mentally fatigued and mentally tired over a period of time when we start noticing it. But by that stage, your body's already experiencing inflammation. So then if you start to eat the right foods, is your body actually absorbing it or not? So it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, and I said, I mean, I said that even if people took care of just exercise, maybe hydration, some good sleep, and a bit of nutrition, they'll be well on the way to recovery. And your body is very versatile and can take a lot of battering. But in the end, if you keep like a car, if you don't put the oil in the engine, it's going to seize up. And we know, because we come from sports, we just wouldn't be able to function in the sporting arena if we didn't take care of those things.
And like you use the car analogy, and just like that, sometimes we need to flush the oil that's in there and put fresh oil inside. And it's the same with our bodies. If you're experiencing this fatigue, then sometimes we just need to flush the system out. Go on a cleanse or a detox of some kind, and just clear the mind out, clear the stomach out, the gut, and get rid of all the gunk that's inside there, and fill it up with fresh stuff, fresh produce or fresh foods, cleansing foods. And this is the same like a car. And then you work better.
Well, see, mental acuity is one of those things. I mean, it affect short-term memory loss, blurry vision, everything. And it is my favorite word, synergy, as you know. And your body all works together, so that's why you need to look after it. So if you ignore it, you will pay the price. Trust me, along the way. Okay, people think because they eat Kentucky Fried Chicken for every meal that they're going to be okay. Well, I can tell you, you're in trouble. Right? Sorry, KFC, that's not aimed at you, by the way. That's aimed at the fast food industry and processed food and everything else. It just means that you need a variety of things. Variety is the spice of life. That was the name of our call, wasn't it? Was it last week, week 4? I don't know. But, it is. And it's exactly it. And that's why you shouldn't eat the same food all the time. Change it up, but have plenty of good stuff.
Well, you bring up KFC. It goes back to that story which I've mentioned before on this podcast, is that case in point where the girl was girl from the United States, from the time she was old enough to eat soluble foods. Her mother basically gave her KFC. So the mother was addicted to KFC. She gave the child KFC. The child never wanted to eat anything else other than KFC. Got to the age of 12, and her system just collapsed.
Yeah,
and she ended up in hospital because of the fact that she couldn't. Her body just wasn't able to cope with just that single source of food intake.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of your body as you going into as a child going into a sweet shop, you know what it's like. You go in and go, oh, and you see these sweets everywhere. I want some of them, and you want everything, or nearly everything, and what you want to do is be like that, but with your health, different things. You got carrots, broccoli, peas, lettuce, cucumber, and you just go through everything, and I'll have one of them. Well, I'll have that tomorrow, and I'll have that one. So keep it on the go. And it makes it exciting. It makes it more interesting, so you don't become bored with just eating rubbish and all the time.
Also, you bring up a point about tasting. You want stuff like you use the analogy of a sweet shop, and it's a great analogy because of the fact that sweets taste nice, right? Typically,
yeah.
But most people, when they think of greens like celery, cucumber, cabbage, cauliflowers, carrots, they think, ooh. Most people think like that, right? But again, I brought this up in the past.
Yeah.
We've had a discussion about this, is the more that you switch and you change slowly but surely to those healthier green, colorful foods. And when I mean by colorful, you want to be using the entire rainbow spectrum of food colors. The more you start to do this, the taste buds change, and it doesn't take very long for your taste buds to start getting used to that breakdown of those enzymes in the juices and everything like that, and the taste buds to get familiar with those flavors before you start to really appreciate what those foods taste like. And then once that happens, then it's not a difficult thing to eat healthy foods, because you just got to experiment with how you prepare your foods and stuff like that, adding different combinations together, and the combination of colors, it just enriches the flavors, and you get these you can really make amazing dishes, tasty dishes from healthy food. You just got to either be curious or go online and look and find out for yourself where you can find different ideas. But give your body the chance to be able to eat those healthy foods, because then you'll start to notice the more you do so, the more pleasant the flavoring is.
Yeah, I found, at least I was well fed as a kid. Okay, and we did have quite a varied diet, and I didn't enjoy some of the things I ate, but it did enough to I had a sweet tooth, but it wasn't disastrous.
Disastrous, yeah.
I love candy, love sweets, and but I can go weeks without them now, and that only comes because you're prepared to try different things, and But I do. Occasionally, I have to cook an apple pie and get some custard and things like that, and just you got to do it sometimes. But generally speaking, no.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
No, that's right. You don't do it every day. I love cake. That is the real weakness.
Well, this is like something like Paul and I have a mutual colleague, business partner, and a friend of his name is Kirsten. He's just currently moved from South Africa to the Netherlands, and he was saying to me, he said to me last week on a call, he said, Warren, and Kirsten comes from an athletic background as well. He says, Warren, you're not going to be impressed with me. He says, my stomach has grown since I've been in the Netherlands. So I said, yeah, I know, it's the breads, right? And he looks at me, he goes, my God, the bread is amazing. And
have they actually moved to the Netherlands?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
This is the problem, especially when you live in Europe. The pastries and the breads are just. Now we just been to have so this is the reason why I'm late, folks, is my wife and I have just been to meet the new owner of the place which we're moving to, and they're refurbishing the place and everything, and he was showing us around. And directly below where we live is a bakery.
Oh, the smells.
Oh, exactly. We just drove past it, and they actually have the bakery, but they serve the food outside. It's covered, and then you go and you buy your stuff from outside. So you got all the smell as you're driving past. If you walk past, it just permeates everywhere. It's yeah. So
it's funny. Anyway. I went to an event yesterday, and it was obviously to meet people and that. And one of the things they had there was bread that was like 20 times less in carbs than what we normally buy.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you, it tasted something very, very nice, actually. The only unfortunate, the downside of it is the price. It's double. It's more than double than what you would pay for a nice loaf of bread in a supermarket, let's say.
Now, and this is how most people are going to think, right? They're going to
say, So
half the carbs, double the price.
120 for the carbs. Yeah. That's how it's really. I mean, we do have to have carbohydrates, but I get what they're trying to do. So
we don't need to have as many carbohydrates as we do have.
No.
And also this is the thing as well, is like, we talk. I know we are supposed to be talking about mental fatigue and mental tiredness and that, but it's when we're eating these carbs, the quality of the carbs is so. It's so dependent on how our body is absorbing and is stimulated and absorbing other foods, other nutrients that we're eating, perhaps at the same time or not. And it's those sugars that are in those carbs and those sugar enzymes, those that break down in the body. And this is what causes a lot of issues for us, and mental fatigue. and that, and so you got to be so mindful of this as well. And this is why it's so interesting for us, because it's a science in itself. If you just think of just eating bread, you can talk about that for a whole day if you wanted to really break it down, like what types of breads and things like this.
Well, the other thing as well, that obviously there was quite a few things there, like they had these special vodkas and all this type of thing. But I wasn't interested in those. I was interested in all the alcohol-free stuff. So I was looking at that, and
keep telling yourself that, Paul.
No, most of the time I don't drink. I mean, I went out and had a few at the weekend, or a bit more than a few, but that was like once in a blue moon. So
you made up for that blue moon, right?
Oh yeah. Blurry vision. Oh yeah, sorry. Anyway, so let's do the last few sort of symptoms and that. And I was just thinking of a lot of people on here. Think of your kids. Think of yourself as a student. If you're doing exams, studying, and things like that, and having a reduced ability to pay attention to the situation at hand that you're dealing with, poor concentration, maybe even hallucination. I've had that through lack of water over a weekend. So think about that. Are you paying attention to what your kids are doing at college? Talk to them about their nutrition. Talk to them about what they're drinking there. Don't go too deep into it, because we know they're going to go to a bar. Okay.
Well, we know they know everything already, so it's okay.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yeah. But there's type of things we think about, but over time, the symptoms will get worse, and fatigue is one of the ends of the road, if you want, on the way to nowhere. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely somewhere, but not where you want to be. So think about things that how you feel. Have you got any achy limbs? And think about what's causing it. What can I do about it? I've already offered. We're prepared to help. This is one of the things that we do is eradicate mental tiredness and fatigue, and that's why one of the reasons why we use that headline. So some of the causes. What are some of the causes of fatigue?
Well, we've just spoken about a major impact, and that's the foods that we eat.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd say another significant one is too much stimulation, mental stimulation through technology and things like this. This will cause fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the
brain, whether it's in the workplace or at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because the brain's just not getting enough rest time. I'll tell you now, I feel it. Like sometimes at nighttime, I'm lying in bed and I put my blind on like this, as Andrea's she's lying next to me or sitting at her desk and she's doing some stuff or watching something. And the moment she switches it off, I just feel my whole head just go, oh. Yeah, even though I'm not connected to anything, I am inadvertently. And the moment she disconnects, I just feel, even when she turns the light off, I feel the difference.
Yeah. Well, there are a wide range of causes, of course, and excuse me. First one is medical. It could be self-inflicted, or it could be that it's just one of those things. But you've got to think about what you're doing, and if you've got fatigue, it could be an underlying cause of something, or something's causing it. Something like it could be heart disease, it could be thyroid, diabetes, another one. So again, this is why I said about it would need to be investigated to find out exactly what it was, and it may take a bit of time. But you can help in the meantime by changing the next one, which is lifestyle-related causes. I'm not going to go into that. We've said it all right? But then you've got workplace ones that we mentioned as well. And there's lots of reasons for that. It could be noise. It can be heat. It could be anything. over long periods of time. You could be becoming dehydrated and not realizing it. Again,
the lighting systems could be
anything.
Systems,
Can be anything.
Could be your colleague sitting next to you.
Yeah, talking to you. Shut up. Yeah. So, and then because the next one is emotional concerns and stress. So you've got to think about this, and you've got to think about your environment. When you're in an environment, you've got to ask yourself a question: what is this doing to me? Is it assisting me? Is it okay? Or is it detrimental? And I'm saying, if you think it's detrimental, then I'm sorry, you've got to change something.
Yeah, sure.
But then that can lead on to lack of motivation, being irritable, in a bad mood, and the really bad thing could be mental health. So, it could be that you're depressed about something. It could be whatever, you know what we're talking about when we say depressed. There's different types. But it could be grief. Something could have happened. It could be PTSD. And that's a big one.
And again, this turns out to be a vicious cycle potentially.
Oh yeah.
Fatigue and depression, fatigue, depression, to fatigue, or
combination.
Yeah. And also and PTSD. Many people don't realize that PTSD doesn't have to be being a police officer witnessing people being murdered or death. Doesn't mean you have to be in the military going to war in order to be experiencing that. It could be really
just any bad experience.
Yeah, and people don't realize.
It could be domestic violence.
Yeah, what's that?
It could be domestic violence.
It could be a domestic, and it could be like you as a kid watching something on television. This is why sometimes with youngsters watching violent shows on television, they don't realize, parents don't realize that what their brain is seeing, that stimulation, what it's doing to so unless you educate that child and you tell that child that, just remember this is not real, so that they can tell themselves that the impact on them can be significantly traumatic for them. They won't say anything to you because you're sitting there watching and it's like everyone's like, oh, so they're not going to say anything, but in their brain they're thinking, oh my God, what's just happened? So
So there are medical causes as well, and there are the trigger factors for something that will trigger fatigue. It could be a disorder, it could be a disease, something you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it needs to be investigated by a professional. And and then you've got lifestyle related causes of fatigue. We've spoken about lack of sleep, too much sleep, alcohol and drugs. It could be sleep disturbances even. It could be torture. And I don't mean being tortured as a prisoner of war or something like that. I mean, you could be tortured without even realizing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it has an effect over time. And again, you could be living with someone who snores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You could be unemployed. So that could be a huge, but for some people, it's a bit of a way of life, unemployment. For others who have been working all their life, to suddenly become unemployed must be really horrible. And so that's why each circumstance, each event that happens is unique to the individual. Whereas if I was made unemployed, I might laugh and think, don't care. Where someone else gets made unemployed, and it's a big down, and they're on the way down, and they can't stop the spiral. And because everything that we've spoken about kicks in and becomes this big, as you say, this big, huge, vicious circle, as you mentioned, Warren.
Mm-hmm.
So it is huge, and as I say, you could go on about this forever, right? But we have said there are some things you can do, right? And even if you start doing one thing at a time, and then maybe add in something else when it becomes a habit,
And that sometimes that's most likely is the best course of action to take. It's just one at a time.
Yeah.
Process of elimination and inclusion. Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Process of elimination, investigation, and just trying to work out what it is. I mean, that's huge in itself, and and we're here to help. All right. That's, what we do. So, as I mentioned before, grief, anxiety, stress, depression, all things that can send you down the road of fatigue. Okay, apart from the lifestyle factors, so they're huge as well. And so, are there things that we can test for, Warren?
Sure, we can. We can test for, one that comes to mind immediately is our vitamin D levels, because that can impact our mood, our immune system. So obviously, if your mood is depleted, or if your mood is all the time, that's going to lead to mental fatigue of some kind, depression perhaps. So you can test for vitamin D to see whether your vitamin D levels are adequate or not. You can also test for your blood sugar levels, blood pressure, these kinds of things as well.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is there's help available, and that's so where do we get help from? At this point,
I'm trying to point to. I'm trying to point to.
Yeah, no, just for the podcast. Yeah, for the podcast, he's pointing at himself.
I'm trying to point. Why is it not going? There we go.
And me as well. Yeah,
I'm getting asked about face there.
So, in diagnosing fatigue, we'll have to look at your medical history. We'd have to look at you, speak to you, ask you lots of questions, maybe do a few tests and things like that, depending on what you say. And we can get you on the road to recovery. So with that, I mean, can you think of anything else about fatigue that you can help us with, Warren?
Yeah. Don't. I don't want to be lecturing, but just be careful and be mindful of discounting the symptoms that we've spoken about. Okay, because don't try to just take it on the chin and be tough about it or whatever. And because with the reason why I say that is because in the past, in times gone by, it may have been simpler to do that. Okay, and you could get away with it. But life has become so complicated these days, and life has become so inundated with stimulus from all angles in all aspects of our life. So when something like this starts to take grip in our lives, mental fatigue, you want to make sure you take care of it. You want to start to take action on it immediately. And in some cases, it may just be a case of inaction. Just a simple time by yourself each and every day. Get into the practice of meditating, or just sitting in peace and quiet without the idea of meditating for 20 minutes a day. You don't have to meditate per se, but just sit in peace and quiet and no thought, no speaking, no stimulus for 20 minutes a day. That's going to just rejuvenate your brain, rejuvenate your mind, rejuvenate your heart, rejuvenate everything about you at 20 minutes a day, every day. If you continuously get into the rhythm of doing this, that will help to eradicate a lot of the symptoms that we've spoken about over time, in some cases immediately. But make sure that you do at least talk to somebody and consult somebody that is a professional that can give you the right guidelines that are going to help you along that way. But don't discount it, please.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And don't forget a walk in nature. It's a huge one.
Every day.
But we all want to battle these things. And as you say, when they used to talk about advertising, they said you had X amount of seconds. Now it's down virtually immediately within a couple of seconds. Now, if you're a marketer, you've got a couple of seconds to grab someone's attention. It was a little while ago. It was about 15 seconds or 10 seconds. It's going down. Soon we won't have any. There won't be any time to play with at all. So anyway.
You talk about that. Just imagine how much data your brain is able to capture in a second.
Yeah.
Your eyes, what your eyes are able to see, and your brain's able to compute within a second of stimulus, that data. And this is why marketers have cottoned onto this. They know this from a psychological perspective, and they put as much as they can into as quick a time as possible. Now, we can do this. Our brain is able to compute that and able to cope with that. But do that for extended periods of time, and things start to take its toll.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So with that, I think we've murdered this subject as much as we can. If you've got any questions, please let us know, and we'll get you the answers. If we don't know, we know someone who does. All right.
And if you don't have any questions, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Yeah. So if you need any help, give us a shout. Apart from that, have a great rest of the week. And we will see you on Monday on successcafe.tv. And have a great week.
I'll be in my new office on Monday.
Ooh. Are you moving Monday?
We're moving on Friday.
All right. Okay. Good luck with that.
Cheers, man.
We'll all speak soon. See you later.
Bye now.